I'm a married man with a wife, children at home, 2 kids to be precise. And I'm thinking I need to embark on a PhD or master's study. Now the question I have in my mind is, I have a full-time job from 8 to 5 and I play with the kids after work. Sometimes I help my wife to cook and wash dishes and put her clothes in the washing machine. But now I want to embark on this journey of PhD. Where am I going to get the time to balance all this? In this conversation, I'm joined with Dr. Gilbert, MNG Research. We're going to unpack the nuances and complexities of juggling marriage life, family life, and completing a PhD in record time. Dr. Gilbert.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Moringa. You know, that's quite an interesting and tricky aspect you have just mentioned all the same. But as a married man who started his PhD before he was married and then transitioned into marriage along the way, I actually felt the pinch of that transition. But one thing that helped me to go through and that helped me to process everything in a more efficient manner was communication. You sit down with your partner, you sit down and you discuss how you are going to work things around. Because also at that particular moment I was working, doing my PhD, and we had our first baby, and everything was coming along the process. And sometimes you'd feel the heat of the moment. Sometimes it's easy to be stressed in that space. It's easy to be affected by anxiety and all those kind of things. But when you create the space in the room to communicate and get to engage with your partner, get to shape things around, you realize that you can manage the work, you can also manage the marriage and manage the other institutions that you are dealing with at that particular moment. So the very first thing is communication. And then the very second important thing you need to consider is adjusting your work schedule. Obviously, if you are coming from work 5 to 4 p.m. every day, or 8 to 5 p.m. every day, one thing you need to adjust is, what do I do when I get home? It might seem like you are going to have a unique routine, but it's not necessarily always the same. But adjust that time frame. Make sure that when you get home, you get to rest, you have time with your family, and when everyone is rested, maybe later on, you start working. You have at least 2 to 3 hours to push your work every day. And also, one thing you need to understand is that Rome was not built in a day. Make sure that each and every day you build 2 to 3 pages. Just, not much, just 2 to 3 pages. When you do it that way, be consistent each and every day, 2 to 3 pages. You realize by the time you get to end of the month, you have 90 pages if you are writing with a streak of 3 pages a day.
All right, this is Dr. Gilbert. 3 things stand out. Communication. Communicate with your family. Second thing, you need to adjust your work schedule. You need to adjust your schedule. And the last thing that Dr. Gilbert has said, burning the midnight oil. And one step at a time, brick by brick. Put in the work every day, and consistency is the ultimate goal.
But one thing that I want to emphasize on is understanding that whenever you you embark on a postgraduate journey, and you are a married man or a married woman, you need to understand that there are different institutions that are governing your activities or the things that you are doing. And obviously, the first institution that you are dealing is the institution of marriage, and then maybe the institution of work, and then the institution of academia. You see? So obviously, with these different institutions you are dealing with in your journey, you need to understand that marriage is a critical institution that needs effective management. And one colleague of ours a few months back, when we were speaking to him, Dr. Mringa, you remember he said that most people often forget that a marriage is an institution on its own that needs management, and that actually affects their academic journey and affects their other institutions like work and everything else. So the moment you forget, or the moment you neglect that you have an institution of marriage or a family that needs your attention, even as you are doing your academic work or your or any other work that you are involved with, you realize that you are going to have a problem, because the other institution will feel neglected, the other institution will think that you are not taking them serious. So this is where time management comes in. You need to sit down, you communicate, how are we going to go about this? Because you know very well that whatever you are embarking on is not only about upgrading your status, but it's also about improving your life as a family. That upgrading of a master's or of a PhD is going to add certain value and is going to open certain financial doors that are going to benefit you. So you need to discuss it as a family. What am I going to do? What are we going to do? How should we adjust our affairs each and every day? How should we allocate our time? You see, that way you will know that the first thing is I need to extend the hours I work. Obviously, if you are working from 8 to 5 every day, you also need to have extra hours maybe later in the evening to work on your academic work. But in between, you need to allocate time for your family and get to you don't need to get to be a what do we call it, a foreigner in your own household. So it's very crucial for you to have time each and every day. And when you get to weekends, have the most of that time with your family, so that at least when you allocate time to your work, no one will be complaining, everyone will be happy. So that's very important.
Thanks, Dr. Gilbert. Managing institutions. That's one key thing that you need to note. Manage the institution. Whatever you don't manage, you lose it. If you don't manage your family, by the time you complete the PhD, everyone will be gone. You'll be wearing the red gown, gown alone. If you don't manage your marriage, by the time you complete the PhD, you'll be divorced. By the time you finish your PhD, if you don't manage the work institution, by the time you complete, you would have lost your job and you have to start again. So what is the benefit of losing everything, getting a PhD? Be wise and manage the institution so that you can have your PhD, but while have everything again intact. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode. Let's meet again next week.